Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and model the Duplo 2x2 in the quickest way that I know how. So over here I have a blank file. I've already labeled it Duplo partial measurements, and I'm going to use the least amount of measurements possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the bottom of the Duplo. So I'm going to sketch, and I will choose the flat plane in the bottom here. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle representing the bottom of the block. I'm going to use a very special rectangle, which is called the center rectangle. So after I hit rectangle, I come over to the sketch palette and I tap center rectangle. I'm going to place the center at the origin, which is going to set up me using symmetry later. My dimensions for the width will be 1.252. My dimensions for the depth will be 1.252. I'm going to hit enter and finish that sketch, and then I'm going to extrude it up a height. So I'll extrude it up. That needs to be 0.756. So there is the beginning block. That's kind of the shape we see. It'll have some studs on top, and then it'll have some things on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and shell it out now. So I'm going to hit modify, shell, and then I'm going to come with my navigation cube. I'm going to come down here to the bottom. I'm going to tap this bottom plane, and then I'm just going to type 0.1. Now that is thicker than the actual Duplos because our plastic, frankly, isn't as strong. And this is a working model. I want it to work and not break, so I'm going to make them a little thicker there. So I have the basics. Now I need to go add the things that help them come together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to model the studs on top. There are 4 studs around. I'm going to do one and then pattern it around this axis that comes up through the middle. Now that's why it was important to use a center rectangle centered on the origin. So I'm going to come over here and turn off the origin. I'm going to come to the top surface and I'm going to put the dimensions for one stud. The dimensions, the studs themselves, I have measured at 0.368, and I know that varies a little bit from person to person, but I know this one works. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Now that is the right size, but it's not in the right place. So I need to put the dimensions from, so I'm going to dimension, sketch dimension, tap the center of that circle, tap this line, and then I drag it out here just so it's easy on my eyes. I want to make that 0.309. I'm going to hit enter. And then while this is still, notice that's still highlighted, so now I'm going to tap the center of the circle and then this edge, and I want that to be 0.309. I'm going to hit finish sketch, and I'm going to extrude that up 0.2 inches. I know that it is a little less than that, but it doesn't run into anything, so it's quite okay. I'm going to hit OK. I'm now going to come up and I'm going to put a little chamfer on this top. So I'm going to, as this oval, I guess, it's a circle representing the top, is highlighted, not that face, not this, but that right there. As that's highlighted, I'm going to right click and hit chamfer, and I'm going to put a tiny chamfer. 0.05 is what I'm going for. So I'm going to drag it in or just type 0.05. And what that does is it serves as kind of a shoehorn to help this find center in the block above it. Alright, so I've placed this. This is the right size. It is the right location. Now I'm going to create a pattern. So I'm going to come up here to create pattern. This is going to be a circular pattern, and that circular pattern is going to go around that. Now right now I can't select just the stud because object type says bodies, and that's all one body. I'm going to come up here to features, hit the drop down, hit features. I'm going to select both the stud and the chamfer because I want to do the least amount of work. And then for my axis, all I have to do is select that one, and it defaults to 3 of them. I actually want 4. So when I come over to quantity and hit it up to 4, you're going to see that that now looks wonderful. Alright, the reason I've called this Duplo partial measurements is because that's all the measurements I'm going to use. I've used this measurement, 1.252, which is the same as that one, 1.252. I've used 0.756, then I've used the 0.368 and the 0.309. I'm not using any more measurements. I'm going to do the bottom with constraints. All right, so here I go. I'm going to first put the center peg that comes down and nuzzles between those. That is going to be drawn on the bottom inside of this block. So I'm going to choose that as my plane. Now I need a little more information. So I'm going to go back to the isometric view and come over to create. I'm going to project this circle or this circle. I'm going to project that down. I'm going to hit OK. Now when I go back to the bottom, you're going to see that, hey, that's projected too. And what that allows me to is constrain. So now I'm going to put my center circle like that, and then I'm simply going to tell it to be tangent. So I'm going to come to constraints, hit the constraint button. I'm going to tap this circle, then this circle, and you'll notice that now that is tangent to it. So it's going to reach out and kiss that one. Because of symmetry, it's also going to kiss this one, and this one. So that's going to hold in there snugly. So it'll be the perfect size. I don't want to print this solid as I extrude it down, so I'll use an offset from that, and I'm going to put another circle that is negative 0.1 and hit OK. So now that has two circles there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude the donut. So I'll hit Finish Sketch. I'm going to hit Extrude, and then I don't want to do any more math. So I want this to come down. I could obviously do the math, but I'm just going to, rather than the extent type going a distance, I'm going to have it come to an object, and then I'm going to highlight the bottom of this. So what that does is that makes it come down and be flush with the bottom. That's where I want that to come down to. Now, this would almost work. In fact, it would fit on there, but what it would do is it would wiggle. It would turn side to side. If you look at the bottom of the Lego, there are 3 points of contact on every stud. So this is what I call fins, and I'm now going to go to working on the fins. So that's all going to happen in one sketch. This sketch is going to be placed on the bottom edge, and then I'll extrude upwards when I want to make it. So again, I need to project. So I'm going to project this circle right here down. Any of them will work. I'm going to hit OK. Come back down to the bottom view, and then what I need is a little piece that holds that. It could be a rectangle. I use little arcs because, again, I'm after function with this. So I'm going to create a 3-point arc. I'm just going to tap this line, bring it over a little bit, and bring it up so I got a little something that's going to look like. And now I'll constrain this into position. So I want this to line up directly above that. So I'll use my horizontal vertical constraint. I'll touch this dot here, which is the center of that radius. If this were a whole circle, if this arc were a whole circle, that would be the center. I'm going to tell that to be centered over that. It'll move it in position. Then I'm going to use tangent as a constraint to tell this to come out and touch that at one point, or kiss it. Now I have one, I need one over here. Rather than doing the same thing, I'm going to use reflection. So I'm just going to place a 45-degree line from corner. I've got to be careful that I lock onto the corners. If you don't lock onto the corners, it's not going to work. When I get right there, that little box pops up and I'm locked to it. So now I will mirror that right there, and for my mirror line I'm going to use the one I just created, and I'll look, and that is indeed perfect. I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to want to create a circular pattern. For my objects, I'm going to choose both this fin and this fin. For my center point, I'm going to use that origin, and then I need to make 4 of them. Now you'll look, there's in each corner it's got 2 of them. I'm going to hit OK, and now I will finish my sketch. Now I'm going to tap Extrude, and then I'm going to go around and choose the inside of these objects. All right, I'm going to go back this way so I can see, and what I want to do is I just want to bring it up 0.2 of an inch. I don't want to bring it all the way up because that would just waste plastic. The studs below only extend up 0.2 of an inch, so it doesn't make any sense to run them all the way up to the top. I'm going to hit OK, and now I have a fully working Duplo that functions perfectly. The last thing I want to do is I want to add my name, or my initials in this case. So if you haven't done this yet, this is what you're going to learn. So I'm going to sketch on a face, so on a side face. I'm going to start a sketch. Now I'm going to create text. So I'm going to come down to text. The way this functions is I'm going to come up to the upper left-hand corner to start my text box. I'm going to left click. I'll come down to the bottom corner. I'm going to left click again, and now it wants text. So I'm going to enter my initials, CDS. Now I'm going to center it horizontally. I'm going to center it vertically and hit OK. Now I'll finish my sketch. Now I'm going to go to Create, Emboss. I'm going to, for the sketch profiles, I'm going to highlight CDS. For the face that I'm doing it onto, that's this face that it's on. And then rather than embossing, which would bring it out and possibly run into a block if I try to put a block beside it, I'm going to deboss it. And what that means is it goes in. Since this is 0.1 thick, I'm going to go half that distance of negative 0.05 and hit OK. So now that will be pushed in. Oops. I don't know. I'll save my document now. It's telling me to save my document now, so I'll do that. All right. At this point, I am done. So I am ready to, I saved it. Now I would go to export. In the export, I would change this to an STL. I pay attention to where it's going. It's going to my downloads folder. So I'm going to hit export, and that's going to take the STL to my downloads folder. Now I would open up Google Classroom, add a file, browse, since it's not going from your Google Drive, go to the computer's downloads folder and attach that file. So that's, again, I'm going to add that file and then hit submit, and then this will be printed for your real test. I just noticed that the D didn't perform as I'd like it to. It's okay for me, and certainly I wouldn't criticize anybody for turning in a D missing. I don't know what that part of the D is called, but this is how you would lay out a Duplo 2x2.